Storm Chandra has wreaked havoc across the east of the country, bringing major flooding to many homes and causing commuter chaos in the capital and in counties Wicklow and Wexford. Thousands of homes and businesses are still without power, while bus and rail services were disrupted today, and there were long delays on Dublin's M50 and the N11. Met Éireann said 30 millimetres of rain fell overnight in Dublin, adding the worst of the storm is not yet over. Conor Hunt has the first of our reports.
The capital woke up to high winds and heavy rain. Roads near the Dodder turned into streams. Nutgrove was among the suburbs worst impacted. Flooded residents said the waters hit quickly.
2 o'clock this morning, then it started to build up, and there's nothing I could do. It just got in anyway, the water. About maybe 6 inches to 12 inches high it got in.
In Kiltiernan too, homeowners were counting the cost.
Water level, it's up to there off the ground, about 18 inches, and my whole house inside 7 inches on the inside of the house. As we go in our front door here, it's totally destroyed. Up to the skirting boards, all the way through the sitting room, my timbers, everything's destroyed, sofa, couch, everything.
Such was the speed of this weather event, some were left stranded. Dublin Fire Brigade carried out a number of rescues.
Okay, he's alive.
This storm has upended many. For commuters, closures on the M50 and on other routes have caused major disruption, and more could be in store.
Well, the bad weather associated with Storm Chandra isn't over yet. The storm is actually still tracking northwards over the west of Ireland. So we are going to see some more heavy falls of rain on top of the very heavy rainfall we saw last night and the flooding we saw earlier on today. We are going to see some very strong and gusty winds move northwards with the storm.
Businesses will also now be assessing the damage done. This storm has hit home for many living in the capital. Conor Hunt, RTE News.
Well, the impact of Storm Chandra on Enniscorthy in County Wexford has led to renewed calls from locals for the immediate introduction of a long-awaited flood prevention scheme. The town was one of a number of areas in the southeast of the country to be hit by heavy flooding.
Several parts of the southeast of the country, particularly Enniscorthy, have been left reeling by the impacts of Storm Chandra. When the River Slaney burst its banks in the early hours of this morning, the sheer volume of water left parts of Enniscorthy town centre severely flooded. Up to 30 homes and at least 20 businesses remain under several feet of water this evening. Several schools in the county also remained closed today. Volunteers and emergency services were on hand to bring people to safety, including a young family with a newborn baby.
This is very extensive, the most severe flood that we have experienced as a council or the people of Enniscorthy have experienced, certainly in the last 20-30 years. This event was expected, but the extent wasn't expected. It's very severe.
The conditions also playing havoc with public transport today. Elsewhere, Storm Chandra left its impact on houses and on the N80 in Bunclody, while an 84-year-old woman had to be evacuated from this property in Graignamanagh, County Kilkenny, after her home became flooded. Others faced 2.5-hour commutes on the N11 in County Wicklow. Flooding has long been a problem in Enniscorthy, with today's events renewing calls for a permanent solution to be put in place.
I'm really calling on the government to change the planning system that we have in this country to ensure that the freshwater pearl mussel, which is causing the legal blockage to getting planning permission for this project, is changed.
We know with the climate crisis it's going to get worse and worse. We do need to see the flood defence scheme in Enniscorthy town, and we need to move quickly.
Council officials say it could take as long as Thursday for the floodwater to fully recede, and then the clean-up operation will begin.
Well, let's get the latest now this evening from our reporters and correspondents. We'll go first to Mark O'Driscoll, who's in Enniscorthy this evening. Mark, we can see the water level behind you still quite high, and we understand it's going to be some days before that recedes. How are people managing there this evening?
Well, Sharon, a palpable sense of anger and frustration here in Enniscorthy today. We tried to speak to many homeowners and affected business owners. However, such was the level of their shock and anger that they said they would need time to compose themselves as they looked across the floodwater here and saw the damage to their properties. And they said it would be tomorrow before they would have, their thoughts to actually verbalise, I suppose, their anger and frustration to us. But there are some reports this evening that funding is going to be made available from government to those impacted by the storm today. However, what many people will want to know is when will measures be put in place to prevent this from happening again? And while funding may go some way towards softening the blow, people won't want to see the floodwater up to this level in Enniscorthy today, like today again. And just in the past few moments, we have got a statement from the Office of Public Works. They say that they remain committed to installing a flood relief scheme here in Enniscorthy along with Wexford County Council. They say the main aims of the first phase of this scheme include the construction of a new road bridge over River Slaney. However, the start date for the planning application for that phase of the project still remains Q2 of next year, so that will be little consolation to the people of Enniscorthy here tonight.
All right, and Coleman O'Sullivan, you're close to the M50 in Dublin. It certainly looks like it's moving better than it was this morning, but what's it like for commuters out there this evening?
Well, here at Sandyford there were unbelievable delays for commuters because the northbound carriage was flooded. But as you can see, the traffic is moving well in both directions on this part of the M50, though there are still concerns about possible flooding. So you may be able to see an orange light behind me. That's a crew waiting on standby in case anything happens. However, there are other delays. As you heard in Mark's report, the M11 around Kilmacanogue was one area earlier today. That has improved a little in that one lane northbound has reopened, but still delays there. And we've heard also of collisions on the M1 north of the M50 causing delays, and that just underlines the message to all road users to take extra care and extra time this evening, because there are still challenging conditions, some very heavy showers, though not the sustained rain that we saw earlier. On public transport, the Dublin-Rosslare train service was off earlier today. There are now services, but with the bus transfer between Bray and Rosslare. Delays in other parts of the rail network, for example on the Dublin-Sligo line and some DART services. Dublin Bus say that their services are operating well this evening. Some delays in some areas because of water on the road, particularly on the Enniscorthy road, and also some flights delayed at Dublin Airport. So the message to everybody is to allow extra time, take extra care, and take care for all road users, take care of each other. There are people cycling here this evening, and drivers are asked to take extra care, watching out for them. But again, just take extra care and allow a little extra time, and hopefully tomorrow conditions will be much better.
Coleman O'Sullivan in Sandyford in Dublin and South East correspondent Mark O'Driscoll in Enniscorthy in Wexford. Thank you both.
Well, for a broader look at all of this, we're joined by our environment correspondent, George Lee. And George, we saw there a few moments ago the devastation that these floods have caused. There were weeks of heavy rainfall before Storm Chandra arrived. I wonder, is there an argument that we should be better prepared for situations like this?
Well, we need to be better prepared whenever we hear there's an extreme weather event coming, because all of the evidence and the science tells you that when it does come, it will be worse than it was before. We will expect more extremes. So when you get a storm, you're going to get a worse one. This particular one is heavily influenced and has really been driven by what you've seen in America, with those the very severe snow and the very huge cold weather that they've got over there. That causes a differentiation between warm and cold temperatures on that continent, and that's what drives the jet stream which comes across the Atlantic. So been coming across at a really, really fast pace, because they are extreme weather events in the United States at the moment. That led to this fast jet stream, and at the end of that was the development of this storm. I was listening to the British Met Office yesterday, the UK Met Office, and they were saying, even yesterday evening, that they couldn't be certain about the exact trajectory of the storm in terms of where it was going to land. Would it be in Wales? Would it be in the south of England, or over more towards us? And they said because it was still forming at that late, and that would impact hugely on the impacts that it would have. But it was very clear also that it would that on high ground you get an awful lot of rain. Now, we have an awful lot of data, some of which we don't really kind of peruse enough, I think. And Met Éireann has a huge amount of data. For instance, they got lovely graphs in terms of cumulative rainfall over the past week, loads of graphs in terms of where we are in terms of average rainfall compared to monthly figures, compared to where we are. Everything showed that in the east side of the country, we were 3 and 4 times the average rainfall over the previous 6 days. We also know that all over the country, the Office of Public Works has a system where there are 380 locations where we have all the data on a real-time basis about where we are on water levels in rivers, in terms of their levels, in terms of their flows. Nobody seems to be using any of that. We could have known, for instance, if you look this morning, you can see exactly where you were on the River Dodder in terms of the water, the height of the water, the flow of the water, the same on the Dargle, the same on the Slaney, where all of that things, all those information was. We have so much data. And in a world where you've got artificial intelligence and young kids at the Young Scientist exhibition using that to find new discoveries, why can't we pull this data together and give people better instructions and better information about potential risks and something that they can do to prevent the damage that we've seen? We could do more. Met Éireann did all they could do. I heard all of the words in relation to the risks, but we can do more.
Very interesting. George Lee, thank you.